Hello, you're watching Thursday edition of News Mongolia. Today is August 25th. For our top stories. Mongolian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and U.S. State Department meetings held in Ulaanbaatar. Mongolian textile producers are manufacturing children's gym clothes that meet international health and safety standards. This year's wheat and potato harvest will meet domestic demand. For other news, stay tuned. The 15th consultation meeting and the first strategic dialogue between the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Mongolia and the U.S. State Department were held on August 24th in Ulaanbaatar. U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for East Asia and Pacific Affairs, Daniel Kritenbrink, took part in the annual consultation to discuss continued cooperation and shared interests between the two countries. The consultation meeting was chaired by Ulaanbaatar, State Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Mongolia, and more than 40 representatives from 10 U.S. and Mongolian government organizations participated. This year marks the 35th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries. The parties exchanged views on a wide range of issues, such as further strengthening the strategic partnership between Mongolia and the United States, deepening economic cooperation, cooperating in the recovery of the post-pandemic economy, and organizing high-level mutual visits. During the meeting, the Mongolian side presented the latest political, economic, and social status, measures aimed at economic recovery, the Vision 2050 long-term development policy, and the medium-term new revival policy, with a particular focus on measures to attract American investors. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs affirmed that the United States is an important third neighbor and expressed willingness to expand and develop cooperation in all fields. The United States expressed its willingness to support Mongolia's economy and democracy, and the parties agreed to cooperate in several areas. The parties will establish an air transport agreement allowing direct flights between Mongolia and the United States, and ensure the implementation of the Water Compact Agreement between the Government of Mongolia and the Millennium Challenge Corporation. Assistant Secretary Kritenbrink emphasized that the United States values the strategic partnership with Mongolia. He highlighted that the American-Mongolian relationship and cooperation have been successfully developing in all fields over the past 30 years, and noted that there is great potential for further development. It was agreed that a Mongolia-US-Japan meeting, a regular Mongolian-US economic policy consultation meeting, and a regular meeting of the Mongolian-American Intergovernmental Trade and Investment Commission would be held in the near future.
We said hello, and we'll say hello again.
When it comes to school children, short-sleeved t-shirts and cotton shorts are wardrobe staples that work well for gym class. The Mongolian Association of Textile Professionals is launching mass production of gym clothes for children. The production process starts with material production and ends with the production of ready-to-wear clothing. Mongolian manufacturers have studied the international materials standards for major sporting gear companies for over a year.
Currently, we are producing student uniforms and gym clothes from materials used by major sporting brands like Nike and Adidas. As school uniforms and gym clothes are worn by children, they must meet health and safety standards. As gym clothes directly touch children's skin, we are paying special attention to these standards.
For comfort and breathability, parents like opting for t-shirts, sweatpants, leggings, and tank tops that are 100% cotton. According to some sources, the majority of children's gym clothes are imported and don't meet international quality standards. Many of these clothes contain synthetic materials that don't breathe and make children sweat.
We are following textile material standards that were amended in 2022. Even though some materials for children's clothing contain polyester and other synthetic materials, we plan to produce gym clothes from 100% cotton for health and safety reasons.
The Mongolian manufacturers say their gym clothes are produced with a universal design that can be worn by students of any age or gender. They also say that the clothes will be durable and high quality. They are currently using domestically produced fabric, and they plan to produce a 3-piece set of gym clothes in the future. The State Harvest Commission reported that this year's wheat and potato harvest will fully meet domestic demand. 70% of the vegetable demand can also be met by this year's domestic production. Vegetable cultivation increased by 1,500 hectares this year. To meet the domestic demand for wheat and vegetables, several state policies have been activated, including soft loans, price stabilization, and fuel price regulation.
As part of the national movement for food security and supply, 1.7 billion MNT was invested in the agricultural sector. Our goal is to meet the domestic demand for 19 foods in the next 5 years. We've seen some positive results from agricultural policy implementation.
Preparing storage facilities for wheat and grain is also an area of focus. There are now 7 storage facilities with the capacity to hold 186,000 tons, which have undergone technical maintenance and sanitation. Through the government's support program, around 1,400 farmers received a combined 97 billion Mongolian tokruks in soft loans.
An integrated web-based agricultural information system is currently being developed to receive online loan requests from farmers. This system will combine banking systems and operate as a comprehensive platform.
The weather forecast includes the chance of high precipitation and a cold snap in the country's agricultural region in late August and early September. Early response measures and appropriate harvesting techniques are planned to save crops from cold damage. Now let's take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. Here comes the international news from our partner agencies. Israel's caretaker prime minister said on Wednesday that the West, led by the US, should not strike a bad deal with Iran over its nuclear capabilities. He spoke as the Biden administration is expected to consider an Iranian offer to resume its compliance with the 2015 nuclear agreement. Lapid said the deal cannot be accepted as it is written right now.
Israel is not against any agreement. We are against this agreement because it is a bad one, because it cannot be accepted as it is written right now. In our eyes, it does not meet the standards set by President Biden himself, preventing Iran from becoming a nuclear state.
The 2015 deal gave Iran billions of dollars in sanctions relief in exchange for curbing its nuclear program.
On the table right now is a bad deal. It would give Iran $100 billion a year. This money will not build schools or hospitals. This is $100 billion a year that will be used to undermine stability in the Middle East and spread terror around the globe. This money will fund the Revolutionary Guards.
The Trump administration unilaterally withdrew the US from the deal in 2018 and reinstated sanctions, causing the international agreement to unravel. Israel was staunchly opposed to the 2015 deal and has become increasingly alarmed at the apparent movement toward the deal. Israel has long said it would not allow its regional arch rival Iran to obtain nuclear weapons, and that it was not bound by the agreements between world powers and Iran. Iran insists its nuclear program is for peaceful purposes only. Israel's alternate Prime Minister, Naftali Bennett, on Tuesday called on the Biden administration to resist forging ahead with a deal with the Iranians. Israel's National Security Advisor Eyal Hulata is in Washington this week for talks with Biden administration officials, and Israeli Defense Minister Benny Gantz will head to the United States on Thursday for meetings with the head of CENTCOM and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. The Biden administration is expected to weigh in this week on Iran's latest offer to resume its compliance with the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, but neither side is offering a definitive path to revive the agreement, which has been on life support since Trump withdrew from it in 2018. Hundreds of people gathered in Brussels' Grand Place on Wednesday carrying a giant Ukrainian flag to mark Ukraine's Independence Day. The 31st Independence Day coincides this year with the 6th month of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, giving the annual celebration an additional symbolic dimension. People also posed in front of the Belgian capital's famous Mannequin Peace Statue, which was dressed in Ukraine's colors of yellow and blue. Stanislav Taran, who is from Kyiv, said the events in Brussels were a pleasure because they showed the support of Belgium for his home country.
Signs like this is actually grateful for this because it actually shows the support of the Belgium, of whole Europe, and it's a pleasure for us. And it's also attract attention to the war that's exactly going today in half a year. I mean the full-scale invasion. So we are so grateful, and Belgium is doing great. Thank you for that.
I just came back from home. I visited Kyiv just 2 weeks ago, so I experienced it all on the ground with my family because they're still home. It's very scary, but people are different. People are very determined. People are very gathered together. They are united, and we all believe in our victory. And we really need Europe to still support us and to stand with us till our victory, to celebrate together.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen also attended the event to show the European Union's solidarity with Ukraine. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said Wednesday he has instructed his government to consider developing safer, smaller nuclear reactors, signaling a renewed emphasis on nuclear energy years after many of the country's plants were shut down. Kishida made the comment at the Green Transformation Conference on bolstering the country's efforts to curb emissions of greenhouse gases. Japan has pledged to reach carbon neutrality by 2050. Anti-nuclear sentiment and safety concerns rose sharply in Japan after the 2011 Fukushima nuclear plant disaster. But the government has been pushing for a return to nuclear energy amid worries of power shortages following Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the global push to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The government, however, previously insisted it was not considering building new plants or replacing aged reactors. Kishida's comment on Wednesday represents a sharp change from that stance. Kishida said the panel presented proposals for the development and construction of next-generation advanced modular reactors. He called on his government to speed up its examination of the measures and reach a decision by the end of the year. Most of Japan's nuclear power plants were taken offline following the Fukushima accident for safety checks under tightened standards. The government has already announced plans to restart up to 9 reactors by winter to cope with the energy crunch. It aims to restart 7 other reactors by next summer and extend the operational life of aging reactors. Here comes our regular feature on sports. Rory McIlroy met with the media on Wednesday, a day ahead of the first round of the final event of the PGA Tour season, the Tour Championship at East Lake. McIlroy was part of a players-only meeting involving 23 top players at the BMW Championship last week that led to the PGA Tour announcing a number of changes Wednesday, including a plan for the best players to commit to a 20-tournament schedule in which they will compete against each other up to 17 times.
Unfortunately, Tiger Woods doesn't play as much as he used to. Tiger Woods was the single biggest draw that the PGA Tour had, amongst other things. And we have to recognize that. So for the 23 of us that were in that room last Tuesday night, including Tiger, we all we all have to sit down and be like, okay, what is the best thing for our tour going forward? What can we do to help put forward the best product possible so that in 50 years' time, the PGA Tour is still thriving and, we can safeguard the future of the tour. And that was basically what last week was about.
McIlroy, a vocal opponent of Live Golf, will tee off on Thursday at 1:45 local time alongside Australia's Cameron Smith, who is rumored to be one of several golfers joining the Saudi-backed tour after this tournament.
We all sort of act in.
Serena Williams practiced at Arthur Ashe Stadium on Tuesday, where she is set to close out her career at the US Open next week. At the beginning of the month, 40-year-old Williams revealed in a Vogue magazine essay that her career was winding down. Although she did not explicitly say the US Open would be her last tournament. However, many reports suggest that the 23-time Grand Slam champion will finish her career in New York. She has a record 6 US Open titles, the joint most alongside Chris Evert. With the qualifiers already taking place, the tournament begins on the 29th August and concludes on the 11th of September. Here comes the weather forecast for the world's major cities. This is it for today. Thank you for staying with us. We'll see you tomorrow with more news updates. Have a nice evening. Goodbye.